Hi, Catherine. How are you today?
Good, how are you? Thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
I'm so excited to interview you today. I've known you for years and years, but I know that you're up to new, juicy things, and I really want to find out what you're up to. So, I
Great.
would I would love to just for people who haven't heard of you before, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to.
Wow. Okay. Well, well, basically, I help people work with the stresses and strains in their life so that they can accomplish the goals that they're seeking. So, in one hand, I'm a transformational coach, but I'm specializing in learning in helping people learn how to relax and how to meditate if they have the time so that they can take any of their everyday challenges
Mhm.
and use a deeper sense of centeredness to solve their problems and eventually move to a higher state of happiness. So this could be expressed through um, helping people to transform at work and prepare for asking for a raise or taking an exam or taking a new promotion or um, an entrepreneur who needs to hire someone and give up some of the authority in his business, but he's reluctant to do so. All those kinds of deep challenges that affect us emotionally, energetically, and our pocketbook as well.
I relate to all of those
Yeah,
points. Yeah.
don't we all? We really do.
I definitely relate to having control issues, and that stresses me out to give up the that control over my business. So I definitely could see how that could be helpful to learn how to chill out and um, get more grounded and not be so much in my head about what's happening or what I need to do or what I need to fix and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, can you give us a little bit of back history about how you got to this point and why this is important to you and what the purpose is behind this for you?
Well, I could go back to when I was a young man if that's what you're
You
asking.
can. I'm just curious why this is a passionate subject for you and what led you to this. It could be from your childhood or
Uh,
from the recent past, whatever feels.
well, my situation isn't any different than most people. I come from a very dysfunctional family. Um, and as a young man living in dysfunction, I was very aware of not of how crazy it was, not knowing what normal was, but knowing that there was something more. And what at an early age, even in my 20s or in college, I used to just talk to my friends. And when they shared with me their problems, I had this natural desire to look at it with them.
Hmm.
And I was coaching when I was like 19 and 20, and we didn't know it was a coach. We were coaching back then. And that was always part of the friendship that I offered.
Hmm.
It was only later when I graduated with a business degree and my dysfunctional DNA, so to speak, caught up with me as I moved into adulthood and I got a job. I learned transcendental meditation in the senior year of college, and that set me on the track because it put me in an incredible calm place. And I went on to study with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi
Hmm.
for over 20 years and
Wow.
taught thousands of people how to meditate around the globe in all countries of Europe. And so it was the answer to my prayer. I waited a while for it, but it set me in finding the comfort within myself and then extending it out into the world. So that got me going. And then I met Miguel Ruiz, uh, the author of The Four Agreements. You know him. And
Yes.
that guy taught me how to look at the world as a dream and cognitively, not from a psychological point of view, but cognitively break it down into bite-sized bits that I could manage and I could handle. So what actually happened was those were the two great teachers in my life. And one taught me deep silence and calmness, and the other taught me how to act and work within the world. And they both complemented each other. So towards the end of my study with Miguel, somewhere back in 2001, I brought the two together. It sort of came out of a necessity for me because my back went out and I had to have severe back surgery. And I was in a lot of pain for a really long time. And I was laying there saying, my God, I'm this meditation teacher and I'm really miserable. I'm this coach. I studied with Miguel all these years. I read all of his books and I'm still miserable right now. Well, how could that be? And so laying in bed for months waiting for an operation, I sort of brought the two together into an integral process of how to use both together that creates a sustainable. And one evening it came to me and I started practicing it, and I was able to relax within my pain and find a place inside of me, I'm sure you could relate to this, where I could have pain and still be happy because I had redefined happiness. And that's basically what I teach.
That's actually mind-blowing to me, actually, because the physical pain can really get you, and it can hook you in a way that your thoughts, I find, are a little bit easier to detach from. But when it's physical pain that doesn't end, and you can't move and you're in bed, that just seems incredible to me that you were able to transform that and be in a happy place while dealing with that pain. I know Miguel actually talked about that too when he was waiting for the transplant, going through all of that stuff, that he really wasn't attached to whether he lived or died because either way was going to be a good solution.
Yeah.
Which is mind-blowing to me.
That's mind-blowing, yeah.
Yeah. Just to have that a shift in perception, and it sounds like both of these teachers really helped you to deepen that awareness about who you are, how to manage anything, not just external experiences, but internal and physical. And I feel like for me, I recognize that most of my suffering comes from what I'm thinking, not necessarily what's happening. But when I'm feeling pain, I'm just a goner. So I'm very interested in how what you do and how you do that. I noticed on your website that you do offer, let me read it here, you offer a 30-minute stress relief coaching session. And I thought to myself, everybody listening today, including myself, would love to have a 30-minute coaching session to learn about stress relief. I know that I did the Dreaming with Miguel where we would sit for 2 hours and not move and do meditation and repeat throughout the weekend. But I found that to be helpful within that community. But when I'm out in the world, I can't really sit for 2 hours in my day. So learning techniques that I can actually incorporate in my life while I'm dealing with the stress of raising a son and doing trying to launch a business and trying to make the best decisions for my family, and all of these things can be a burden, or I want to make the best decisions, and that causes me stress.
Absolutely. I mean, gosh, you're not alone. The beauty of it is that we all know how to relax. We've all had moments of relaxation, whether we go to yoga or we get a massage, or even if we meditate or do some kind of relaxation. But what we find is that it's not sustainable throughout our day.
Right.
Right? And so you do yoga in the morning and you go to work and the work stresses you out. And so you have to wait till you get home to do some more yoga or to do some meditation or do something. And the idea that relaxation is sustainable is foreign to us.
Yeah.
And so we sort of settle for, let me get it while I can, It's funny when it comes to food or air or other needs that we have, we make the time. So the idea of my system is creating a sustainable state of relaxation, which means it has to become more like a process. Only takes a couple of minutes, but it needs to be followed through on a daily basis, becoming part of your day. Sort of like you're at the office and all of a sudden you realize you didn't eat a lot of breakfast and you're hungry. So it takes you just a couple of minutes to reach down into your bag and pull out a power bar or run quickly to a healthy vending machine, hopefully in the office, get a little and then come back to your desk and work. Well, we can do the very same thing for our mind body, for the relaxation state. We can close our eyes right there in the office in our cubicle, and in a couple of minutes give ourselves some deep relaxation. Then return back to work more centered. And then maybe if we need it again, if we're hungry again, if we're stressed again, we just do it again. And we do it many times throughout the day as needed. And what happens is when you do it like that, a new habit establishes. And one that not only solves your problem, but gives you an early warning system that, hey, you know how the body says, hey, you might be getting hungry?
Yeah.
So, it doesn't just hit you. So you go and get something to eat before it's too bad. Well, when you practice this system, you get these early warning systems that say, hey, you're getting stressed. Why don't you sit down for a couple of minutes? And if you do it right now, you'll nip it in the bud. Now, you can't do that all the time, but I have techniques where after you've advanced in the basic relaxation techniques that you could do with people in the room with your eyes open and still connect to that relaxation stage.
I want some of that. It sounds like the red pill or the blue pill. Can I have the red pill?
Exactly. And because it's a process, Catherine, the beautiful part of it is that as you practice this and it overflows, it's sort of, when the cup gets empty, it overflows. And when you do this a lot, you find, well, maybe I don't have to do it so much, or I'm happier, my disposition seems to change. But what happens is a deep foundation of peace grows within our being. And then we realize, having dipped into our essence, even for a couple of moments, we begin to readjust our identification of happiness. This is what I meant before, meaning that happiness is not the interaction with the outside happening in a way that makes us happy. Just like sadness isn't necessarily that. Happiness is something, a state of being, a state of awareness that's within us in spite of what's going on around us. So that's how I was able to be happy yet still have physical pain, because I was now identifying. Of course, I had the benefit of years of practice.
Yeah.
Okay, which we all can accumulate. I'm not special, but once you start practicing it, your identification changes. So now you go, wait a minute, what makes me happy is experiencing who I am. And therefore, when things go wrong on the outside, sure, it's uncomfortable. We don't have our heads in the sand, but we're not devastated. We're not hung out to dry. We don't feel desperate. We don't suffer. Suffering and pain are two different things. When my back went out, I was so upset because I had to stop working.
Yeah.
I couldn't support my family. I had two families to support at the time. I couldn't make my child payments. I couldn't work. I didn't know what was going to happen. It looked like it was going to be months before I was going to get any relief. And like you said, it was irrational, the fear. But I had nowhere else to go.
Right.
When we practice something in a sustainable way, we always have somewhere else to go. And that's very relieving for us.
It sounds like a foundation that you're laying by noticing, and it seems like just an awareness practice when you're talking about, I'm noticing I'm getting stressed out. Like usually I don't notice it until I notice my jaw is hurting because I've been clenching my teeth for hours, or
Yeah.
or I snap at my husband and I didn't realize that I had been frantically working on a to-do list that, you know, with whatever it is. And then my husband asked me to do something and it's taking me out of this drama that I've created around my to-do list and deadlines that I've created for myself. And I don't notice the signals ahead of time. And what I notice, even when you're talking, even when you're sitting there, there's a different sense of presence that you have. And I know it's from the years of practice that you had beforehand, but also integrating. I think that the pain that you experienced with the back pain was like a bottom, like a spiritual bottom. If you know, it sort of forced you to reevaluate how to incorporate all the things you'd already learned, and now you've really incorporated it into your life, and I can feel it and see it, and I want that. And I wrote that down before our interview, that there is something when I see other people that sort of embody that, what I call a Zen presence. I want that, and I feel like I've had bits and pieces of that in my life, but never throughout my whole day, unless I'm power lounging on the bed with, you know, people feeding me grapes, which never happens. I mean, you know what I mean? It's never, I always have a vision of perfection that I'm trying to actualize.
You got to talk to Jerry about that.
I know. I keep sending him little Post-it notes, but he's not getting the memo.
He's not getting the message, yeah.
But you mentioned something about happiness, and that happiness is a choice. And I did read that too on your blog in an article that you wrote about happiness being a choice. Mm-hmm. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that, because I know that I've experienced it when I was working with Miguel, that I have a choice in any situation. And that's mind-blowing when I first hear it, but I have had the experience of detaching from my judgments and just feeling the energy of love moving through me, or I guess that's it, just feeling the energy of love. I don't know how else to explain it. And that other people are having their issues and I don't have to respond to it. And that's been wonderful, but not sustainable for me because I haven't practiced it on a regular basis. So now I'm looking at it again from another point of view. How do I stay happy? How is this a choice when I'm trying to make money and I'm spending money out and I need to, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about that.
That's the $1 million question. But we've already set the foundation for understanding that. When you begin to practice relaxation, and I actually I define the difference between relaxation and meditation. Okay? When you start to relax regularly every day, throughout the day, and establish that identity that, oh my gosh, I could close my eyes and make myself peaceful. So there must be something inside of me that I'm connecting to when I close my eyes. And as you visit that enough, you begin to say, wow, that is me. Right?
Yeah.
You know, whenever you start, you know, when you became a photographer, you didn't know shutter speeds or film speeds or any of that. And you kept saying, well, I'm not really a photographer. But every time you learned a little bit more about your camera, you started to say inside yourself, hey, I'm really a photographer. And then you started taking great shots. And you went, wow, I'm really a photographer. You know, and then you bought all the equipment and you looked around and you were selling it. And you said, wow, I'm really a photographer. Well, when we start visiting by relaxation deep inside of ourselves, we keep saying, wow, this is who I am. And then we do it again. You go, wow, this is who I am. Wow, this is who I am. Then after a while doing that, and it must be on a regular basis, because, of course, with lapses, you go back to the other way of thinking. Eventually you go out in the world and you say, this is really beautiful, but I know who I am inside. And that re-identification allows you to make the choice.
That's delicious.
Because even though you know who you are inside, you can still get pulled out temporarily by drama.
Yeah.
But you get into the drama, and once you see it, and things calm down a little bit, you go, oh, but I know who I am. And you come right out. You come out immediately. So you fall back in, but you get out quickly, and eventually you stay out as that relationship deepens. So that's, it can't really be a choice until you start to understand and feel, not cognitively, but actually experientially on a Gestalt level, you actually feel that identification with who you are.
Mm.
And you just, it's like you move into a new home, it doesn't feel like your home until a certain amount of time. And then once it's your home, it's my home.
Yeah.
That's what happens when we discover relaxation within ourselves.
That's
and
amazing.
then once, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, what's amazing to me is that I can know who I am on paper, like a description, but you're not talking about that at all. So with meditation, we're really detaching from the story of who we are and really getting into the energy of who we are without the story. And that's just feels like it for me feels like a vibration. And that's it. And it's pleasurable.
Yes.
Just to sort of reside in that space.
Yeah.
Without
absolutely.
Needing to tell myself
one of the things that is what we learn, what I teach, is something that I've coined and trademarked. I call it the mind-body principle. And the mind-body principle says that whatever is happening in our mind, there is a corresponding reaction in our body.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it works on an active level. When you go and do yoga, you go in stressed or excited or nervous, you stretch the body, and what do you find? The mind relaxes.
Right.
Because the body went down and the mind came to meet it because of this principle. In relaxation, just the opposite occurs. We do a mental technique that causes the body to follow it and relax. This is the mind-body principle. But on a more static level, the mind-body principle also says that if you had a stress when you were young that created a fear in you, whatever it may be, and you're not over that fear, it means that stress is still in your body.
Oh.
And so sometimes we will say to ourselves, oh, I'm over that. That doesn't bother me anymore. And we know later if something happens that we lied to ourselves. But it's never gone until it's gone on both levels. So we heal the mind and we heal the body at the same time.
Interesting.
We don't know it, but we are.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when we feel something through our emotions, if we use our emotions in the process, some people just try to solve things cognitively. But if we really think of it in terms of emotional work, then emotional work will take us back to the body to feel it. And that will release it. That's why emotional work is so powerful, because of the mind-body principle.
Well, what's? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's
You're done.
that's
I was just going to say that what I like about this is that, when I think about stress relief, I think, oh, it'll be some, neat 30-minute technique, but really it's so much deeper than that. It's so layered and it's so rich. And I love what you're sharing about the awareness piece and the emotional piece and the spiritual, all of it. It's just so rich and juicy. I look forward to hearing more about how to incorporate these things into my own daily life. I feel like when I join a group, like a spiritual group, I'm in the club, I'm in the bubble. But when I'm not engaged in the spiritual community as much, I have a harder time. Unless everybody's doing it, I think, I'm just going to go sip some coffee and grind my teeth and power through,
Well, most of us are like that. That's part of the human nature.
Yeah. When we're involved in a group, I find that I get a lot accomplished. Like with my business, I'm involved in a group and so many things happen as a result. And then when I'm not involved, nothing is really happening. Yeah. So I can see the power of hiring somebody like yourself to help me become aware and learn techniques. And I'm wondering what things that you offer. What is coming up for you? What's new? How can people find out about you and do more of what you're talking about?
Well, the best way to start off with me would be to go to my website and go up to the right-hand corner, I'm still offering the Relax Now ebook.
Mm.
And I'm not going to be offering it for long. I'll tell you why in a minute. If you join, I don't email people a lot actually. If you join and get the free ebook, it'll show you a couple of simple ways to relax. How you can learn to relax, things that you can do anywhere in minutes. And if you practice it, then it'll be yours. That's a way to start. Okay, that's my gift to people when I first got started. Mm-hmm. Then immediately I can do coaching sessions with people to help them refine the technique and show them how they can incorporate it into their day so that it becomes like eating. You don't think about it. It's just a way of scheduling it in and doing it and an attitude about it, and take them through the first 30, 45 days of their practice so it solidifies. Because doubts come into the mind, like you said, I get away from the group and I go off. So being coached is so powerful. What does it take? It doesn't take a whole hour to do that. So I could work out a plan with someone where they can check in with me once a week for 15 minutes. We just make sure they're doing it correctly to cement in the process and to discover what problems, what resistances might be there that are keeping them from practicing it throughout their day. And then once someone's on their way and their practice is becoming very regular, by then I'll have a new website up where there'll be tons of content, online courses, and specialized courses for individual situations like working with intolerant bosses, taking exams, or working through relationship changes, working with the relationship with yourself, and how you apply those basic relaxation techniques to those areas. On the new website coming up, there'll be a meditation course. There'll be a course on learning and going deep into this mind-body principle that I'm speaking about. Because once you understand the mind-body principle, you understand how easy it is to do this. I mean, you just think about it. We're like a house that was born into the world, constructed, completely wired for everything, right? Would you buy a house that didn't have electric wiring? No. So we don't have to rewire ourselves to learn how to relax and have joy and maybe even go further into our spiritual development. It's all there. We just have to learn how to find it and how to turn the switch on. And then once you do that, you're on your own. You're in for a beautiful ride.
It sounds amazing. I love that you're going to be offering all of these courses, and the meditation course sounds really up my alley. And the coaching, I can see how beneficial that is, just to check in and have accountability to somebody and check in and make sure that I'm doing it right and that I'm whatever comes up during the techniques throughout the day, could be valuable to check in about. So that sounds great too. I'm really excited to find out more.
The one thing that's the greatest resistance to this, and it has been since time immemorial, is that it's too simple. It's so simple that our complex mind says it can't be that easy. And this has been so true that all the great mystery schools in the world, and I've been through a few now, they make a whole big deal about what you're going to learn. And they make you wait, and they give it to you in levels. But when you get to the final level, you realize it's very simple. But they made it important by shrouding it in mysticism and made it enticing to go after. Because on its own, if it was, it's so simple that if he just told you what it is, you'd say, ah, and you'd walk away. And so we have to make a commitment to this. That's one of the things that when you start, you make a commitment to do this for a certain period of time, and then judge the results after that.
It seems simple, but it also seems hard because you are creating a new habit, and that takes attention. And
Yeah.
I also see that the result is personal freedom, because
Mm-hmm.
we keep thinking that everything external is causing our, unhappiness, or just whatever it is, stress. But
Absolutely.
but the personal freedom we get when we are actually taking charge and making sure that our insides are really calm and peaceful, no matter what's going on the outside, it takes a discipline, I think, and accountability, like you said, and the habit building. I find you're really right about the simplicity, but it's also not that simple to. It's like quitting smoking. It's like I'm going to give up this thing that made me feel like I was in control of something. When I smoked, I felt like, oh, I'm stepping away from the world for a minute. Ciao.
Exactly.
And now I'm going to show up all the time. I don't want to show up all the time. So how am I going to release the habit of leaving in a way? So I can see how this can be simple, and yet it's layered, like I said before.
But you know what's beautiful about it is that, and this brings us back to where we started in my story. I suffered enormous pain in a situation that was very scary, and that pushed me to go for something.
Yeah.
See, we don't move unless there's enough pain involved.
Right.
And we know that on many levels, either financial pain or emotional pain, or I work with people in addiction on an addictive level. Sometimes people don't give up their addictions until they know that it's absolutely going to possibly kill them, really hurt them. And it's when we're in that level. And it's really funny, if we look at it as a classroom, then we can go out in the world, and when something terrible happens to us, it's not the end of the world. We realize, oh my God, this is an opportunity for me to take this pain and energize it to help me transform and change, and go that extra distance to make it happen.
Yeah, I was going to say that I know for myself with my addictive pursuits, I don't know what you'd call it, but my seeking outside myself to make myself feel better, and not wanting to let go of the story of who I am. I find that common in the addiction communities, where our story is really important, and especially if it's negative and hard, and terminal uniqueness around how hard it's been for me. And the idea that it's simple and could be just a few steps every day to learn a new habit could be something that you would, at least for me, I know I do have to get to a place of really deep pain to release and let go of that story I'm telling myself, or whatever it is that I love to tell other people about how hard my life is. I mean, I think there is some truth to that the letting go of that story can be hard for us too. And yet I can see in you, and I can see in other people, that when you do, that your life has more potential. You have more potential for actualizing your fullest life and the dreams that you actually want. And I want that. I want that more than I want to hold on to my old stories. And so I don't know that I have to be in deep, horrible pain. It's just an awareness that there's more.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that you do what you do, and I appreciate you spending time with me to explain all of that. I thought you were going to give me this little stress relief 101, but no, it's not that. It's rich and
it's rich, and it has depth, and I would be doing you a disservice if I gave you a shortened, abridged, how to relax for dummies kind of 2-minute explanation. But anyone could go to my 2 websites, either Stress Guru or Work Stress Coaches, and download the Relax Now, which is all basically technique.
Okay.
There's just a couple of pages on theory, I talk a little bit about the mind-body principle. And then it's all basically techniques, and they could get going today.
I'm going to do it. You know, I have a coach that tells me that she won't work with me unless I'm meditating 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. I'm like, okay, I kind of roll my eyes. But I do notice a difference. The minute I sit still, I have answers to things that I'm constantly thinking about. It's right there at the tip of my seat, you know, right at the minute that I sit still. It's pretty amazing. It's amazing, not only in stress relief, but also for clarity and to trust myself to know that I have all the answers that I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. So I will definitely put a link at the bottom of this interview for everybody, or 2 links. It sounds like you have a couple places to go seek out more information and to get that download and to start utilizing the techniques that you're talking about now, and how to contact you.
And then if the people are interested in just exploring and staying in touch with my work, then if they join the mailing list for any of the 2 websites, Work Stress Coaches or Stress Guru, then I'll send them an announcement when the new website is up, with all the content.
Great.
And they can decide what they want to do then.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
Ed.
Thank you. I had a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I know that your listeners would be interested. When you are stressed for whatever reason, and you go to do a shoot, or you go to do some filming, do you find that the stress gets into your work, or do you find that you love your work so much that there's sort of like a barrier where the stress, because you go in there, it brings you such joy.
Yeah.
The stress sort of washes off you as you walk into your studio or as you pick up the camera.
I think I've had both experiences. One, when I'm photographing a wedding, I'm very stressed till the minute I walk in, and there's sort of a tension about being on time and having all my equipment because it's live and I can't screw this up, that kind of thing. But once I'm looking through the lens and I'm connecting with what I'm looking at, I don't remember the stress as much because I'm really aligned with and passionate about that, noticing the light and how it's falling on the subject, or noticing the composition, or noticing the emotion that I'm seeing through the lens. So that it kind of falls away because I'm doing what I love and I'm really connecting to it. When it's in my office and there's a to-do list, it's a little bit different. I do love it. I find that that's a creative process for me as well. So there's a bit of it that I love, the adrenaline rush of what's the next chess move in my business. But I'm not having the same falling away. I feel like it's still there, and some of my decisions are based in fear or stress rather than a connection that I'm making with myself and aligning myself with my purpose, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's beautiful, yeah. Because, one thing we didn't talk about, and I just wanted to bring it up with the few minutes we have, is the idea of creativity. When we're in a creative mode, we're naturally relaxed. We naturally find that relaxation because creativity is that natural flowing of that who we are embodied in our work.
It's really true, isn't it?
It is so true, which is why all the recruiting gurus will tell you, or even the leaders in personal development say, it's more important to love your work. And that's why. Yeah. Because when you love your work, that creativity becomes like a channel that brings that up for you. So you have that identity of who you are. It's the joy of looking through the lens and finding the light that is the embodiment of the joy of who you are.
That's yummy. Yeah.
And so whatever type of job you have, people may not love their work like you do. And people may be listening to this and saying, hey, but I don't really love my work. What can I do? Well, you don't have to change jobs. right away or at all. Just learn how to relax intermittently throughout the day. And you'll find something that you'll love about your work, and you can rally around that. But when we're stressed, we can't find the joy, the little joy that's in our day at work if we're totally stressed out.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because it also brings up an important thing in my life too, which is my son Max, and how I went through this huge thing around him napping, and I would hold him and rock him, and I was very attached to him falling asleep because I wanted me time. It was very important to me. And he wouldn't fall asleep. He would think my songs were funny, and he would laugh, and he wouldn't, it's this whole thing. So I wasn't experiencing the moment. I was not present. I wasn't experiencing the joy of being with my son. I was completely stressed out and wanting something else than what was. And so I switched it around and created it into a time where I take a picture of us at nap time. And now it's been a project I've been working on since April of last year, where I can't wait to nap till nap time, because then I get to see how he falls asleep on me or around me. He usually has a foot on my face or a foot on my arm, or he's snuggling up to me. And that moment will never happen again, exactly like that. And so I take a picture of it, not only to document it and to get more present, but also to memorialize, so to speak, of this time that will pass, where he won't be napping and I won't have these sacred moments with my son. And so I've taken something that I did not like, which was trying to get my son to sleep, and transformed it. And I think you talked about that just now with the work, where there are times in my job and in my being a mom that I don't really enjoy the process. So I've really tried to shift my attention and make it into something that, because it's not going to change. He's going to have his process with napping, so I can either change the way that I come to it or be miserable.
Exactly.
So that's helped me a lot.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I've had that experience, and I still have it, because now he's decided that nap time is a time to beat up mommy. So I'm dealing with that, where he's kicking and screaming and not wanting to nap for like an hour. So we're doing this sort of power struggling stuff. And
I remember those days when my daughter was little.
Do you?
And it was time for her to go to bed at night. I thought I'd do what my mother did with me, to help me fall asleep, tickle my back.
Aww.
So it became time for tickles. Well, oh my gosh, it was like if I didn't tickle her back, she wouldn't fall asleep. And it just developed into an avalanche of things that I needed to do.
Yeah.
To get ready for bed, rather than just letting her go to sleep. So until she was like 2 years, I'd go to put her down to bed, and I was in there for 30 minutes, 40 minutes before I left and she was asleep.
Yeah.
And I see children now, just you put them down, go to sleep.
I know. I did it backwards. He's in our bed, so we are in bed when he goes to sleep, and we usually fall asleep, and we don't have any time outside, for our time. So we're trying to figure out, how do we get him in his own bed and not need us to push up against and all of that. So it's interesting choices we've made. So anyway, I really appreciate that thought about the creativity and how it really is true. I started a painting class too, and I started painting, and I realized I'm a painter. I kept saying that to myself. I used to be a painter, and then I went into photography, and it reminded me of that space that I get into where I forget about expectations and I'm just painting. And I think that's really what you're talking about with stress reduction in general, is to move into your own being and find that place within ourselves. So, yay, Ed! I'm so excited that you're doing what you do, and I'm really excited to talk with you and find out more. Because we did, for those of you that don't know, Ed was my teacher for 5 years. I don't know, a year? I don't know. Long story, but but he actually was the first person that taught me about the 4 agreements and the Toltec work, and so he was very instrumental in helping me figure out what's going on in my mind, that it's not true. and causing me to
Pleasure,
suffer.
yeah.
So, thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon.
You will.